So I just want to welcome everyone that's watching this video. This is Mike Michalowicz here, joined by more than a very special guest, a very special partner of mine, Laura Elkaslassy. Hey, Laura. Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure you can hear me. I'm in my home office, so the lighting isn't great, and there's this weird guitar set up there. But the reason I'm doing it from home is it's getting kind of late in the evening here. It's hard to find a time that matches between Australia and the US. And in fact, there's other things that are different between Australia and the US. And that's why we wanted to establish a presence in Australia. And are thrilled that Laura stepped up and has led us through a journey now with Profit First Australia. So I thought, Laura, I have a lot of questions for you. I think we can have a little dialogue about the differences between the US and Australia and the commonalities. But first, I just want to get a status update of how is Profit First going and how is Profit First Professionals growing in Australia?
Okay, great. So Profit First as a movement within Australia, I'm noticing, especially in online groups and, talking to people that I meet, they know about the book. They're wanting to know, more about how it works in their business, if it works for startup, if it works, if you're in a really big pickle and so on. And so there's lots of conversation going on here in Australia where, people are understanding the Profit First concept. There are, however, many areas where I'm sure we can spread the Profit First word a lot more here because we are huge in terms of space and people and all of that. So whilst I see that there's been a huge increase in the understanding of Profit First and the interest, I definitely think that our mission to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty is still there and going strong.
No question. I think we've just started to scratch the surface. But I'll tell you, actually, it's more than scratch the surface. It was funny, as when I say we, the Profit First started in the US, we were trying to make an effort to build our presence in Australia, and the market wasn't growing really much. When you and I met, you said, you don't really understand the market 100%, which is 100% true. And there's a few things we need to do and change and improve where Profit First can have a massive impact. Ever since you took the leadership of Profit First in Australia, the membership and the interest has grown exponentially. So first of all, kudos to you. And I also,
thank you.
You're welcome. But I also acknowledge
it's
a group effort, and I acknowledge that we've just gotten started. But tell me, what are the changes you've made? How did you take Profit First, the generic platform, and specialize it for the Australian market?
Okay, that's a really good question. So basically what we've gone and done is we have taken everything that you've ever created and Australianized it. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, even in terms of spelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little thing, but it makes a huge difference. But like, obviously the GST and the tax systems are very different here to the US. The structures are different. Whilst there's commonalities, absolutely. The way that it's set up and the possibility when it comes to paying your owner's pay and profit in a company versus personally and all of that, it's very different. And so we have taken that into consideration and changed percentages, as well as, looked at, well, what are the structures? How does this work? What is the modification of Profit First for these different, things that have not been accounted for in the US because they don't exist?
So, when you and I, we met up in, I don't recall, I think it was on the Gold Coast, but we were sitting down for dinner. My wife asked me, what was your favorite part of Australia? And I said, there was this dinner that I had with Laura Elkaslassy, and she told me, she taught me the true Australian language, which we won't delve into here. I never laughed so hard. I'm on the plane still, and I still have this documentation I made of all these different words. I am actually getting to a question now. After doing that, I realized that there's so much I don't know about Australia, and one of the big differences you introduced me to was GST and how GST can be addressed with Profit First. How is it addressed? Because that's not in the US-based system.
Okay, so it is similar to, I guess, your sales tax, which obviously doesn't apply everywhere and it changes state to state where you are. I even don't completely understand that. So, like, I hope my assumption is correct. But GST is a flat 10% that's added to basically everything. There are exceptions to the rule, and there are things that are GST free, and so it's effectively not our money. And so businesses have to, each quarter or monthly, depending on what their turnover is, have to pay the Australian Taxation Office this percentage of what they've collected in income, less whatever they've paid out that has GST, and pay that amount. And so Profit First has to have a completely separate account now for GST that almost gets treated the same way as your subs and materials account. So it comes off first to get your real revenue, and then you do your Profit First percentages.
Okay, so I see. When I collect GST, I allocate to a specialized account specifically so I can turn over on my quarterly basis. I never touch it. That's the Profit First method. What do most entrepreneurs do in practice before they have Profit First?
Well, most people don't do that. They, see the income coming in and it's just assumed, or I guess you don't really think too hard about it. It's like, well, it's income I've received, and then there's a bill at the end of the quarter, and you're like, where am I going to pay this from?
Right.
Yeah, and that happens quite a lot. And so, so implementing Profit First, taking this into consideration, that stress is completely alleviated.
Yeah, so that is similar. In the US, we have sales tax, but like you said, it's almost arbitrary. It is by state, and also some businesses are not required to collect tax. Others are. But the response by Profit First is the same. We set up what we call a sales tax account. Money comes in, we allocate it. And what we tell people that are using Profit First, what we teach is you are basically an agent for the government. The government mandates that you do
Correct.
this. So this is government money, and your job is simply to collect it and give it to them. What's the consequences in Australia if someone does not appropriately pay their GST?
Okay, so there's general interest charges that apply to any balances that are unpaid, and they're quite hefty and they add up over time. There's also penalties as well. If it's not paid, then there's big sort of penalties depending on the amount, how long it's overdue, and all of that. And yeah, so that just accumulates, and if they go a long time without paying it, then we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. There is the option as well to enter into payment plans with the ATO, Australian Taxation Office, to be able to pay that off, but you're still accumulating that general interest charge while you're on that payment plan. So it's almost like a credit card. Do you know what I mean? Where you are accumulating that interest even if you're in a payment plan. So it's not something that you want to do. The other thing as well is if you're in a payment plan, you still have to meet all of your future obligations on time. And if you don't, then, it becomes a problem, and also the ATO may not approve the next payment plan.
Okay, I guess snowball effect. As it rolls, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's talk now about Profit First professionals. Specifically, as you've grown the organization, you've attracted in accountants, bookkeepers, business coaches. You've Australianized the system, but also your individual members, some of them are serving now verticals or industries.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that, how if someone becomes a Profit First professional, how they can become actually the authority in a category.
Yeah, so it's part of the certification process, which I'm sure is exactly the same in the US in that respect. But I guess the difference is here, because we have Australianized and created resources, we've also opened it up to members to be able to make it industry specific. So we have provided resources, and if asked, we rejig resources to allow for the main industries within Australia, so that they can then set themselves up as a leader, as someone that is a key person of interest, that understands that industry when it comes to Profit First. And so we also on our national calls bring in guest speakers, and that's the thing. Our last call was all about tapping into your own referral network and becoming that person of that leader, that expert, that person that you are known for. People are like, oh yeah, whatever industry and Profit First, that you know, your name is what's happening. And so there's lots of support around that as well. Also, it's a matter of working one-on-one with myself and the team. Like if there is something specific that they're interested in, they've niched right down, we look at, okay, well, what is the plan to get that out? That marketing around it, talking about things that, you know, ensuring that the Profit First presentation is on point with that industry, with where they're going, that really answers those key questions. So there's lots of things going on behind the scenes as well that not every member sees, because it is industry specific. But yeah, we're doing lots of stuff there as well.
And let's talk a little bit about the benefits of becoming a Profit First professional in Australia. Let's first talk about the community.
Yes.
You have a lot of active Profit First professionals, and what I noticed is they are highly active in trading kind of best practices.
Yes. So we call it a family, and because it is essentially that. It's, you know, collaborate rather than, you know, competition, which is, no competition is worthwhile, and there isn't any of that in the community. Basically everyone is really open and active, and will share. Like we had one of our members jump into the group yesterday and say, hey, I'm sharing a win, but here's some info for you too, because you know, they had managed to change a package that they were doing, and because the longevity, so the 12 months, especially here in Australia, we've got a lot of people that are scared of committing to 12 months. So instead it's, you know, bring it down to 4 to 6 months. How did that work? And so he actually shared not only a win because it worked and he managed to get, you know, a new client out of it, but also gave the information as to how he priced, what the package was, and yeah, like in-depth information. And you ask a question, you're going to get a full answer. People share their experiences. And, you know, as I was speaking to another Profit First professional yesterday, I'm like, yes, you may not have experience in this particular business, but someone in the community does. And you can tap into that. And also not just in Australia, internationally, yes, we have our differences, but we've got many people over in the US and Europe and that sort of thing that are doing amazing things that could be applied here in Australia. So with both sides, and that's where I see the huge benefit of becoming a Profit First professional in Australia, because you get all of the Australian resources, but you have all of the international resources community as well. So it's like win-win.
Yeah, and we're keeping membership internationally limited. Like our goal is not to have every accountant and bookkeeper a Profit First professional. In fact, it's the opposite. We want the most elite people, which means there's very few people doing Profit First, which eliminates your competition. Which gets me to my next question. You know, accounting and bookkeeping, at least in the US, is becoming commoditized. You know, the software, thank you to Australia and New Zealand, you guys are bringing such sophisticated software to the US. We're laggards, we're behind, but it is changing the industry rapidly. And some accountants and bookkeepers are just throwing in the hat and say, I give up, and they're retiring. Others are fighting by commoditizing themselves or reducing price. And this, what I believe the smart decision is, some of them are saying, I'm moving to a consultative model and leveraging Profit First and other strategies. Do you see that happening in Australia too? Or maybe you're far ahead of us. Has that transition already happened? Can people leverage Profit First to become consultants?
Well, that's a great question. So yes, the change probably has already started to happen a lot sooner than what you're seeing in the US.
Yeah.
So this conversation has been going now for quite a long time. And, you know, there are changes and like within, I guess, the bookkeeping and accounting world, you do see people pop up and say, you know, at the data entry side of bookkeeping is completely gone. And, you know, but people still have that idea of a bookkeeper and an accountant dealing with the data rather than that consulting advisory. And so there is that movement towards the more advisory and consulting role. And so whilst that's already started to happen, it's still very much a big thing that's going on in the industry. And Profit First, the amount of conversations that I have with bookkeepers and accountants who sort of say, you know, Profit First makes a huge difference regardless, but to become a consultant or an advisor in that is like a no-brainer, because it makes such a difference to businesses. It's easy for them to understand, but it's also a way that a bookkeeper and an accountant can then transition into that consulting role, because they often have so much expertise in many areas of business that this is a great way to start that conversation, start that consultation and advisory, and be able to, you know, make that difference in the business, as well as then add scaffolding and information to that for their clients, which as a bookkeeper and an accountant in the general way that people think of them, it is not there.
Mm. Well, that's a great point. So the perceived value is different. You're not just an accountant or just a
Correct.
bookkeeper. So let me ask you this. Are Australian profit first professionals able to dictate a higher premium when they're doing profit first services?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The pricing is completely different to like the packages and pricing that they would have been doing within their bookkeeping and accounting. Some profit first professionals incorporate it, others have it as a standalone, but regardless, that premium goes up because the value and I guess the outcome, and this is something that I spend a lot of time talking to the community as well as one-on-one, is what is the outcome that the person is seeking? Can you provide that? Because if you can provide that outcome, that value, that perceived value is phenomenal because you are life-changing. It is a life-changing thing for a person because it's not just the business that it's affecting their personal goals, their family, their personal money. It is literally a life-changing thing that they're doing as a profit first advisor and consultant.
When someone becomes a profit first professional, joins the Australian location and starts yielding these services, is it a one and done, or is this an ongoing service that a PFP can provide to their clientele?
Okay, so there are definitely some standalone offerings that
Okay.
are worthwhile having because depending on where a person is at in their business and what they can afford and what they need, you can do like a standalone profit first assessment. That said, the difference only comes with the ongoing work. It takes 3 to 6 months, especially if you've got to 12 months, especially if you've got a lot of changes that need to happen in the business and you do need that expert, that advisor to come in and not only help you implement it, but to keep you accountable as well as, things pop up, life happens, there's a big expense that needs to be bought or, something happens personally and you need to rejig the whole thing. Well, you've got that person who can go, okay, let's deal with it. No problem. You're not alone. And you can continue to make that change and increase your profits and pay yourself and really make a difference to your life.
As you're explaining it, PFP reminds me of a fitness trainer, in that you sign up, they can teach you the right exercises to do so you don't injure yourself. And in many cases, they keep working with you to keep you accountable. And as you make improvements, to then do the new exercises that move you even further along. But
Correct.
also, trainers have to be certified, and that doesn't happen overnight. A profit first professional that joins in Australia, how long does it take to become certified?
Okay, so on average, it takes about 6 months to become
Okay.
certified. Some people do it sooner because what I have found is those that are ready to commit have already implemented in their business or started to implement it in their business, which is the first thing that the profit first professional needs to do to start their certification process. So that side of it is quite quick for those that have already started. Obviously, there's tweaking that needs to happen. Reading a book and then doing it yourself versus getting certified in it, two different things. So there's often, changes that need to happen there. However, generally speaking, it's about 6 months.
And the last question I have for you before the big question, the last question, yeah, what's the big question? But the last question I have is, what about inquiries from the entrepreneurial space? In the US, we get a continuous stream every day of entrepreneurs saying, can you introduce me to a PFP? Are entrepreneurs discovering Profit First and seeking you out to be introduced to PFPs?
Yes. So the one thing that we've done, especially through our website, is we have a find one option, which is, if you're wanting to get in contact with a Profit First professional, you can fill in a form on the website. We get that information and we personally match you to a Profit First professional that we feel would be the best fit, that will be able to help you the most, so that they can then have a conversation with the business owner, the entrepreneur, and take it from there. We also have on our website, not all of our members up on there because we, are yet to receive headshots and stuff. But those that have sent it to us are up on the website with their information, so you can already get to know who is there you know, who is it? What is their niche? What are they dealing with? What is their expertise? Is it bookkeeping? Is it accounting? Is it streamlining? Is it efficiency? So that you can already get a feel for who the Profit First professionals are before you are paired. And then you know, and you can also request and say, I would like to be in contact with this person because they've piqued your interest from the website. So we very much have lots of those coming through each day,
Yeah.
and that we're pairing off to Profit First professionals. And you know, it's been great. The feedback that we've received from the entrepreneurs as well as the Profit First professionals has been really good.
That's wonderful. So here's the big question. We're preparing this video, or we're doing this video so that people who are curious about becoming a Profit First professional can get a little insight. I also realize I could ask you 100,000 questions and I may still be missing on one that the person watching wants to hear. So if someone is curious, interested, desires to become a Profit First professional, what is the next step?
Okay, great question. So the next step is on the website, profitfirstaustralia.com.au/apply. If you fill in that form, I will then get that information, as well as you will receive an email to book in a call with me. So only if you're really, really ready to take that next step, book that call, because it's more about the answering all the questions, explaining in detail for your business what it will look like, and that sort of thing. But it's a very easy process. You fill it in the form, you book a call, we have a chat, and then we go from there.
So everyone watching, I want you to know, Laura is more than just the president of our Australia location. She is a former member. She went through the Profit First experience, mastered it for herself, discovered she had to tweak it for Australia, tweak it, and then came to me and said, Mike, we can make this go much bigger and serve a lot more people in Australia by having a local organization. You know, local is in the country, but having an Australia-specific Profit First professional. So Laura, thank you for doing what you're doing. You're doing an extraordinary job, and everyone watching, go right now, sign on up, at least have a conversation. I think it can be a life changer for you. Thanks,
Absolutely. I would love to talk to you.
Laura. Awesome.